Before we get into the stories, I would like to let you all know that I'm taking story submissions to narrate. I will credit you in the description of the video unless you ask me not to, so if you have an experience or story in mind that you would like me to read, then you can email me at feedingonfear@gmail.com, and I will be sure to include it in my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the stories. One school day, a boy named Tom was sitting at his desk by the window, doing math. It was 6 more minutes until school ended. As he was doing his work, something caught his eye. Looking at the grass outside, he thought he saw a picture. When school was over, he ran outside so that no one else could grab it. He picked it up and smiled. It was an image of the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. She had a dress with tights on and red shoes, and her hand was formed into a peace sign. She was so beautiful that he wanted to meet her, so he ran all over the school asking everyone if they knew her or had ever seen her before. But everyone he asked said no. He was devastated. When he got home, he asked his older sister if she knew the girl. Unfortunately, she said no. At this point, it was very late, so he walked upstairs, placed the picture on his bedside table, and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, Tom was awakened by a tap on his window, like from a fingernail. It scared him. After the tapping, he heard a giggle. He saw a shadow outside, so he got out of bed, walked towards it, opened the window, and listened for what he'd heard. By the time he'd reached the glass, it was gone. The next day, he asked his neighbors if they knew the girl. Nobody did. When his mother came home, he even asked her if she knew her, and she replied with no. Saddened, he went to his room, placed the picture on his desk, and fell asleep. Once again, he was awakened by this tapping. Taking the picture, he followed the sound outside. He walked across the road when suddenly he was hit by a car. He died on impact, the picture still in his hand. The driver got out of the car and tried to help the boy, but it was too late. He could only pick up and view the picture of what he was holding. He saw a cute girl holding up 3 fingers. Dear Journal, I don't know if it's me, Doug, anymore. As you no doubt remember from my previous entry, Bluffington is no longer as I remember it. Everything outside is dark. I don't remember the last time I saw the sun. The silence in this house is oppressive. The air is heavy and collects in my lungs like moisture from a fog. Every time I look up, the bulbs appear to glow fainter and yellower. 3 of them have burnt out on the lower floors. As you will remember, Journal, Judy's locked in the basement. She was hammering on the door loudly and moaning in that once human voice for hours. But now she's fallen silent, but I dare not unlock the door. Once and only once I have tried to listen at that portal. I heard a very faint but raspy breathing of a bloody throat and the touch of fingertips on the wooden door. Judy, or what was Judy, then slammed the door with what I presume were fists and released this cacophony of shrieking. It took 10 minutes for it to fall silent again, and I can't stand to provoke it again. Mom and Dad said they had to look for help and tried to make a run for it. I closed and bolted the door after them, as they had instructed, but still heard the screams, human and inhuman, from outside. I never heard the car's engine start. The cracking and slurping continued for an hour. I've tried to comfort myself with pork chops company, but eventually he went mad, running in circles and foaming at the mouth, barking at every exit to the outside. He continued his spiral into madness, to where I felt the need to release him from this hell. I proceeded to loop my belt around his neck during the few moments he seems to sleep. It was a blessing to us both when he finally vomited up blood, whined once, and fell over dead. All the lights in the house suddenly went dead. Excuse my poor penmanship, Journal, for I'm writing in total darkness. I can hear faint murmuring sounds outside. Picking up the phone, I hear nothing, no dial tone, like it was in my previous entry. My eyes are adjusting to the dark. Looking out the window, I can see black-on-black shapes writhing, human bodies controlled by something else. Their movements are lithe and flexible. as if unused to their own forms, but unconcerned by the pain of twisting joints or tearing flesh. On the neighboring lawn, I could see the fat, bloated form of Bud Dink, arms twisting in bizarre directions, indifferent in deference to some obscene being or deity, or something else beyond my comprehension. I fear I'm the only one in the town not yet affected or dead. I can hear sounds now, what would be speech but only comes as illegible tonguing to my still sane ears. But I can recognize voices, the crass baying of Roger, the shrill piping of Phoebe, the high, perfect singer notes of Patty, my dear sweet Patty, into this thing of evil and horror. I can only pray that the real you is left to somewhere unreachable by this insidious influence. I hear a car horn outside echoing through the streets and over carefully manicured lawns, so he still retains something of him. Perhaps it was because it was first, that it started with him. Friendly Skeeter, poor Skeeter. Damn, too smart with his perfect IQ scores. Damn him and his sudden obsession with those stupid runes. He was the only one that could have done it. If I'd killed him that day, as I knew in my heart of hearts I should have, this all could have been avoided. My body trembles, my mind quakes. I hear a crash. The front doors below me must be open. Suddenly sounds fill the house. I hear what was Judy banging on the basement door again, screaming to be released even as her rescuers thunder up the stairs towards me. The revolver in my hand can't stop them all, and I don't want to see what will come next anyways. I can feel what's coming will be worse than any hell that comes of death by one's own hand. You were the only friend able to comfort me in my last moments, Journal. Goodbye. Don't take it. The pill, it's a miracle and a glory and the greatest thing to ever happen. So they say, and it'll probably become the law soon that you have to take it. They'll have you swallow a little capsule when you're still a baby, probably at the same time you're getting your inoculations. The piece of the thing in there weighs only a few grams, and it'll be plucked out of a little pool that'll probably be installed in every hospital soon. Those couple grams are more than enough for it to happen. Sure, you'll never get cancer. You'll live until 150. You'll have stronger bones and a more resilient immune system. You'll probably never need glasses or a hearing aid. If you lose something small like a finger, in half a year you'll have it back. If you lose a whole arm, in 2 years you'll have it back with nearly full functionality. It's the sort of miracle that's believable enough to catch on. It won't solve all our problems, and it'll even create a few more. Like overpopulation, like we'd never saw coming. But it works, and it's cheap, and it's plentiful, and that's all we need. Sure, they can't quite explain how the thing manages to rewrite our genetic code after we swallow a few grams, but they promise the answers will come someday, and that there are no ill side effects. It's from a previously unknown variety of starfish, but they won't even tell you that on the news. I think the story right now is that it's something they're growing artificially. These starfish live in the deepest, darkest places in the ocean, and they aren't very big or interesting looking. Honestly, we've probably seen them down there before 1,000 times and looked them over. It just so happened that prick with the show about eating weird foods got a hold of one. God knows how, and thought it was a different kind of starfish and ate part of it, and a year later, he had that foot he lost back. I'm sure they tore apart his house and tested gallons of his blood and interrogated everyone he ever spoke to. But somehow they figured out just when the regeneration happened and eventually found the fucking thing. It had been alive when he ate one of its arms. I guess he took a pity on it and let the thing live in a tank in his house. Well, this led to that, and eventually they brought up a ton of the suckers. But here's the thing. Think about our technology and innovations. Think about what they're for. Mostly it's to keep us alive longer, make us healthier, help us communicate better. What if, as a race, we'd already had the ability to communicate via thought? What if we were naturally incredibly hardy and long-lived? What if we started out having everything we needed, Without having to do a bit of work, our goals would turn to keeping our world the way it was and simply enjoying things. The mind's so powerful it can transmit and receive thoughts with no effort. It stands to reason other amazing things are possible too. With that mind staying completely intact in even the smallest sliver of the creature, one has to wonder just what else that mind can do. So, now here's the question. If you'd survived all this time just sitting around on the bottom of the ocean with this incredible intellect, how would you amuse yourself? What if that mind could wander and roam freely? What if it could just find something to carry it? What if, as a race, we made ourselves the bottom of the food chain, just to ensure we'd constantly be taken into new creatures and be allowed to see the world through their eyes? Is it really such a leap to think that such powerful minds could overtake smaller, lesser ones? No, nor is it unusual to think that if such a race of powerful minds was endangered, they would use this ability to dominate other minds and defend themselves. That they'd patiently wait until their enemies devoured them, then simply displace the minds of those enemies and solve the conflict. I don't think it's crazy at all, and I don't think it's crazy that there's suddenly a lot more war all over the world. A lot of research put into birth control and the accidental release of that superbug that makes men sterile. We should be enjoying world peace, but instead we're killing each other even faster than we were before. Maybe they're not even threatened. Maybe we're just a game to them. Maybe we're the 100th race of beings these things have done this to. All I know is they don't turn you into some zombie from a cheesy old sci-fi flick. They let you think you're still in control. That what they want you to do is actually what you want to do. It all seems so natural, so right. And then we're in World War III, and the only thing the bombs won't scorch clean is the floor of the ocean. So, heed my warning and don't take that pill. Last week, I drove to a nearby town. The place was surrounded by tall hills and mountains. You could have a very pleasant hike down any of the numerous trails there. I was climbing one trail when I saw what looked like a silver box. When I approached it, I noticed it was a digital camera. It was a 3.3 megapixel PowerShot S20. Slightly scuffed, but otherwise fine. It rained the next day, so I was pretty lucky to get there when I did. When I got home, I saw it had a 300 megabyte hard drive inside. This must be about a $250 value. Folks, I pity the fool who dropped it so carelessly. Anyway, just wanted to share the cool pictures it contained. I live in a house of rules. Let me explain. I moved here 3 months ago, flat number 27. The flat was a repossession. I never met the previous owner and to date know him only from the post I receive in his name. I could make up stories of him vanishing, or his screams being heard in the darkness one night. I could make such exaggerated claims. But this is not a work of fiction, nor am I talking to you right now to entertain. I just got a new job, a promotion I'd waited years for. This was meant to be the next step to greater things, but I needed to move quickly to save on the long drive each day. When I found this place, I was overjoyed. It was well located, within my price range, and apart from being extremely run down and dingy, had so much potential. It's a duplex apartment, with a guest room and spare bathroom on the ground floor, and a dressing room and several storage rooms on the top. The purchase was a complicated one, due in part to poor record-keeping and the loss of deeds and plans of the house. What should have taken a month from start to finish took 4 times as long. Because of this length of time, I took several viewings, and each time I was amazed by windows and cupboards that I could not recall from previous visits. Rooms seemed bigger and lighter, more inviting. Even the estate agent was baffled that her property listing documents were constantly wrong. The neighbors in the block of flats are a strange lot. They don't talk. They keep to routines you could set a clock by. When I first moved in, I tried to invite them to a housewarming. So desperate was I to meet new people. Not one of them came, though. They get in at the same time every day and never leave the house. I never hear of them moving around at night either. One of them, a nervous man from upstairs who constantly fidgets and glances around, apologized afterward. He explained his lack of attendance was simply because he wasn't allowed to. At the time, I presumed he meant by his wife, but now I'm not so certain, as he was the only one I'd got to know since the move. I did my best to become friendly, and even felt like I was making some headway. Then I made the mistake of asking about the previous owner, to which he made an awkward and short response before making his excuses. I have not seen or heard from him since. The rules, as I came to understand them, became apparent over time. The first was sleeping only in my bedroom. I slept once in the lounge on purpose, dozing on the sofa, till I woke up to my arm trapped between the sofa and the wall that was several feet away when I closed my eyes a few hours earlier. I was overcome with this feeling, a really familiar one, that I was somewhere that I shouldn't be. This feeling wouldn't leave me until I hurriedly stumbled up to bed, where I only felt truly safe when I hid under the blankets like a scared kid. I only fell asleep once more in the lounge after that, by accident. I was woken once again with a feeling that I had to leave, that it would be unsafe to stay, and that I should not be there. This time, however, a sweater I'd left across the room on a radiator was tied around my neck and pulled tightly enough to leave a striking mark on my throat. The rule of sleeping only in my bedroom stands alongside others, countless others. I learned that I should clean up my dishes immediately when I stepped out of the kitchen after depositing my plate and sat down on a safety pin that was jutting out of the back of the sofa. I learned not to take showers for too long when the water suddenly turned scalding hot and remained so, no matter how much I desperately tried to turn it off. And then was inexplicably normal temperature when I tried it moments later. I learned that I must hoover and keep the place tidy, that I must not waste electricity, and that no matter what noises I hear at night, I need to never ever go see what they are. Another rule is that guests are not welcome. The last time I had a guest, it was a friend who invited themselves by making arguments to come and see me until I relented. Despite my concerns that I could not air down for the weekend, I spent the entire time terrified for their safety and pretty much drove them away with my strange behavior accordingly. But there were no events. Such things made me bold and I began to relax. I stayed awake until late, played music at night, and did whatever I wanted, even going so far as feeling like I had triumphed, as the house remained meekly quiet. It was almost immediately after they left that I first noticed the headache and nausea, which became worse and worse as the gas leak continued. I only just made it out before I succumbed. I have so many things I could tell you, example after example. I don't know where to begin. I need you to look past your skepticism and see that this is real. That this is more than coincidence, more than child's play haunting. I'm not being haunted, I'm being ruled. The rules are only a part of it, they're not the part I play. The rest is done without me, and not only that, but around me. The walls shift, doors open some days but won't the next. The number of windows in my bedroom increased one by one over consecutive nights, and then suddenly there was only one again. There's a cupboard at the top of my stairs that changes in size quite regularly. One of the most terrifying experiences of my life was when I opened it and saw it went back several meters more than I remembered. When I walked in, somehow the door shut behind me. I reached around in the dark, silently reaching out for a wall I knew must be there, yet my fingers touched only air. I don't know how long I fumbled around, but it was only as my panic attack rose that my shaking fingers found a wooden door. Have you ever woken up in a room with a chair sitting at the end of your bed? A chair that came from the dining room, which is down a flight of stairs and along a hallway? Have you ever walked into a room and seen a storage cupboard that wasn't there before? Have you ever observed more stairs on a staircase as you go down them than there was when you went up? Have you ever entered a room looking for something, and then when you gave up and left, realized an hour and a half had passed? I've lived all of these things. Were I a better, more scientific man, I would have kept a running log of all of it. I would have found proof. Proof I need to show the world that I'm not crazy, that this is real, and that this is a nightmare that I'm living. 5 hours have passed since I sat down to write this. I'd hoped to prepare some lunch today, and pray there are no drawing pins in my bread, like last week when I realized I hadn't hoovered. Instead, it's getting dark. Now, I live a life of routine, just like my neighbors. I turned off the music. No loud noises after dark is one of the rules. It's the one I hate the most because it makes me feel so alone. Lights left on in rooms that are empty or too many in one room are prone to fusing, or even shattering without warning. So I currently only have the glare of the computer screen, the television, and a lamp. Soon I'll be going to bed, the doors that shut behind me as I head up to bed lock. As I will wake up in a room with windows wherever they please, and doors that may or may not open to cupboards that can be as small or as big as each variation allows. The television in the room I'm in has a satellite connection, and with it countless channels. Right now, all are a fuzz of static except for National Geographic, so I'm forced to listen to a documentary on carnivorous plants as I type. I try not to dwell on the exhaustion of a beetle on the screen, as it tries in vain to escape from the prison that will soon digest it. The remote does not appear to work. It took my pulling the plug from the socket to turn the TV off just a moment ago, and even that I loathed to do, for the fear that it might stay on never left me. And I knew that if those images had continued when the plug was removed, I would have screamed myself into madness. I could push the neighbors to talk more. I could rebel against the rules. I could start a fire and torch the whole building. But honestly, I just want to get by. I get the feeling that up until now I've simply been coached, like a dog, to do what's required of me. I feel like the punishments could get a lot worse. The occasional demonstration of strength, the enforcement of the rules, and the occasional mild punishment when I transgress, like one taps the nose of a dog when it misbehaves. That's what I hope for if I can behave. Stepping out of line causes me nothing but harm. It's only out of fear and preservation of my own human dignity that I do not explain here what happens when the house feels like it really needs to punish me. Needless to say, the scar will be with me for the rest of my life. Which brings us to here. I can't go on. I took the decision to write this, with the remaining fight I still have in me, to at least ask for help. I can't do it over the phone. I can't write a letter. My only hope is to speak it into a story inconspicuously and without the details that might draw attention to the content. All I can hope is that someone sees enough to spot my cry for help, that they find a way to contact me where I can get the lifeline I need to escape. I can't ask directly, it's too risky. Besides, any form of open rebellion has been snuffed out of me with pain, suffering, and terror. I fear for my safety, for my punishment for breaking the rules. I'm surprised that I'm being allowed to even get this far. In over 1,000 words I've spoken, there hasn't been a power cut, a computer error that's lost everything. Perhaps there's still hope. But the truth is, I'm scared. Scared of what touched my face in my sleep the night before last, after I accidentally left the sink running, clutching firmly the bruises on my cheek that still remain. I'm scared of what left a pair of scissors in my slippers. Of what power moves wooden doors and plaster walls, seemingly at a whim. Most of all, I'm scared that by saying all this, I might wake up in a tiny room, with no doors or windows, a room that grows smaller every time I blink.